Ladies, gentlemen, and anyone else, welcome back to the actual news. I did want to say right off the top here that I was very critical of Trump last week, and I was actually very impressed with how many people who voted for Trump came out and said that they were also disappointed in the way that it had gone. I didn't really personally expect much better from him, but I do think that it is a good sign that things are changing for the better, that people are not married to this idea that you got to cheer on red team or blue team for that matter. You know, like your parents used to say, you should judge people by their actions and not the color of their party or whatever that was. Look, it's not like this is CNN or any of those, even little comedy talk shows that will just root on whatever the Democrats or the Republicans are doing. I want to actually look at things that are good and call them good, and look at things that are bad and shit on them, as we should. That's why shitting on things exists. I think it's good that the Trump administration is getting rid of artificial food dyes. I don't think that there's a single person out there who would think it was worth it if their doctor was like, it's terminal, you have 3 weeks to live, it's all that blue ketchup you ate in 2005. So, I'm going to go into a few things here, but I did want to say that off the top, we're getting a lot of good reception, and it seems to be from people all over the political spectrum, which I appreciate very, very much. First off, lots of indications that Elon Musk is probably out. There was a little send-off for him. And this guy, famously, when he arrived, he sent out very patronizing email to lots of federal employees saying, email me back and tell me 5 things you got done this week. And so I would like to ask Elon Musk, what are 5 things that you got done so far? 1, fired a bunch of people. 2, seemingly had the budget increase while you fired a bunch of people, and a bunch of people lost money for their businesses through federal contracts. 3, tanked the Tesla stock so bad that they appear to be seeking out a new CEO. 4, a Sieg Heil. 5, ketamine, probably. So, if he's gone for real, see ya. Technically, a special government employee can only work for 180 days. I'm sure that Elon Musk wasn't particularly worried about following that rule, nor was Trump. But it looks like he's only lasted a little over 100 days. So, tough, man. I guess being a government worker, not so easy. While we're on the topic of firing, Mike Waltz, who famously added journalists to a Signal chat about war plans, or as Pete Hegseth would say, not war plans, attack plans. He's been fired from his position anyway. He's been moved to UN ambassador, which is, basically he's just being given a lot less power. And I see some coverage that's like, oh, I guess he wasn't pro-Russia enough, because Mike Waltz is like a big Ukraine war hawk. He wants the war in Ukraine to continue and for us to continue, fighting there. No, Mike Waltz is being fired because he's an idiot. Like, dude, he got in trouble for using Signal, and now seemingly the final straw was he was found out using something called telemessage Signal, which is like an Israeli version of Signal that is encrypted end to end, but it archives like everything you're saying. So you can see why that would also be a major security concern for these people. So, he's out. And it wasn't this other crazy tech. Like, apparently there's a piece of tech called Pegasus, right? And what Pegasus software can do is find out what someone is texting, and all they need is the person's phone number. It does cost $1 million a shot, which is why I've started a GoFundMe to find out what Drake was really texting Millie Bobby Brown. I need to know. Biggest story this week is Ukraine as well. So with Mike Waltz out, there was still a deal on the table that has been finalized, and the terms are, I guess, technically still sort of being figured out. But what it looks like now is that Ukraine will not have to pay back all of the money that we've put into fighting for them. At one point, that was supposed to be on the table, but Mr. Art of the Deal could not get that done, apparently. Now, essentially, it's saying that the U.S. is going to be able to take some resources from Ukraine, and truthfully, there is some kind of economic incentive. Because right now, the name of the game is rare earth minerals, okay? Not only the U.S. government, but most governments around the world want rare earth minerals. The reason that so many people want these minerals is because they're used to make weapons, they're used to make tech, they're basically just necessary to improve and build your economy. I mean, the U.S. government hasn't been this interested in rocks since they introduced crack into the black communities in the 80s. Look that one up. So, essentially, after, bringing Zelensky into the White House, and I don't know if you saw this, Trump and J.D. Vance made this big scene. J.D. Vance was like, "You never even said thank you." Like, they made this big scene, and it was just theater, like so much of politics is, to make it look like they're being tough on Ukraine, and we are now back where we were, basically. We're going to fight Russia on their behalf. I guess on the other hand, this whole theory that, Trump is just totally in Russia's pocket, not the case. You go all the way back to Russiagate, through this whole 3-year ordeal where the Dems were trying to say that Putin colluded with Trump to win the 2016 election, when in reality, he wanted Trump to win. They just had a bunch of fucking trolls on Facebook who were like, "Yeah, you should vote for Trump." Pretending to be an American and being like, "Yeah, you should vote for Trump." Like, dude, is catfishing a national security concern? Couldn't tell you. So, those are really the big ones this week, and I do want to, try and start getting these episodes down to what I promised, which is that, I'd be able to summarize the big news stories that week in about 10 to 15 minutes. I do want to also delve into another thing here that maybe, maybe would be fun too. I don't only want to talk about national news. If you want to know what's really affecting your day-to-day life, you should also be looking at local news. You should be looking into local elections. I'm in Massachusetts, and I know those are live right now, so that's something to look at, as well as communities. But then there's also, stuff about your health. So here's one. Is water making you dehydrated? Stay with me. Okay, so many people carry around big water bottles, and they chug them all day, and they take 17 pisses per day, and they feel dehydrated. What may be happening is you are flushing yourself of necessary minerals, such as magnesium, potassium, even just sodium. There was another one, collagen. I don't know if that's a mineral. We've talked about a lot of minerals. Anyway, you're supposed to have a balance of salts in your body at all times, and that actually sort of keeps water in. So if you're drinking water that is not properly mineralized, so like tap water, but even many types of bottled water does not have minerals in it, that might be flushing your system out. So, ideally, you are taking magnesium, you are even adding salt to your water in some cases, you are taking collagen, and you are taking potassium. You can drink certain types of water. Fiji water, I know, has minerals. Mountain Valley Spring has it as well. There's also Liquid Death, which, ironically might make you less likely to experience death. So I'm going to try to look into little random health tips because we are a profoundly just unhealthy country in so many weird ways. And look, just try some of this shit. I know it's kind of annoying when you get health advice that is very basic and it's that's not going to help me. My struggles are painful and unique, and then you just start getting up earlier and experiencing sunlight before noon and you feel a lot better and you're I thought it was capitalism. Sometimes it's you. And I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that this week. Thank you so much for joining us here on the actual news. Make sure to like, subscribe. I also have a stand-up special coming out on my stand-up channel. Please check that out. Look up my name on YouTube, and you'll find all you need to see. And I think it's going to be out Thursday. It's tricky, man. This is all independent stuff. So, if it were a major studio, we'd have a strict release date. Me, myself, it depends, if the guy I'm working with gets diarrhea. Sometimes it's going to be out Wednesday, and then the editor gets diarrhea. I don't think he's going to get diarrhea, though. Anyway, see you next week.